welcome to the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. I'm Jeff Cranston. Today I'm going to talk about a bill that made it out of the Senate that would offer some extra protection from trespassers for the Mackinac Bridge. It was in the wake of some troubling incidents on the bridge involving people that climbed a tower or otherwise tried to access the bridge to take photos. Another involved a bomb threat that closed the bridge on a busy weekend and disrupted travel for many hours back in 2022. The Michigan House of Representatives passed a bill at the time, sponsored by then State Representative John Damoose, 99-6. And it classified the Mackinac Bridge and several other vital structures in the state as key facilities. That later stalled in the Michigan Senate. Now, in 2025, the Senate has reported out unanimously a new bill, Senate Bill 71, sponsored by now State Senator Damoose, and it's more narrow in focus, applying strictly to the Mackinac Bridge. The designation means trespassing on the bridge is a felony, and I spoke with Senator Damoose about the bill and why moving it has been a passion of his for so long. And later, I spoke with Mackinac Bridge Authority Chairman Patrick Shorty Gleason about why this is so important to him. I hope you enjoy the conversation. So once again, I'm with Senator John Damoose of Harbor Springs, and Senator Damoose actually worked on this legislation, the House version of the legislation, which was a little more broad back in 2022 and would have included some other structures. Now, Senate Bill 71 is narrower in focus, just applying to the Mackinac Bridge, but it's still important, and I'm just really impressed with the perseverance that he showed in getting this resurrected and through the Senate, voted out this week, which is just tremendous. Can you talk about why this is so important to you, Senator?
For sure, and it was. We started in the House in 2022, and that got sidetracked by some last-minute conflicts some people had with it. Then we tried it again in 2023 and couldn't get it brought up at last session, so we brought it up again, and this time, third time was a charm, and I really appreciate the committee chair, Stephanie Chang, for bringing this up and pushing it through right away. But it's worth sticking to. I mean, the Mackinac Bridge is such an important part of our state. I mean, it's hard to overstate just how valuable that bridge is to us. And, you know, it came out several years ago during a bomb scare and a number of high-profile trespassing cases that the prosecutors didn't have the tools to prosecute people who were trespassing on that bridge and potentially causing great harm to it, because somehow it wasn't listed as one of our state's pieces of key infrastructure. And that's what this bill does. It gives the same protection as other important things like pipelines and utility lines and wastewater treatment facilities and those type of things.
Yeah, I mean, that's my memory that the prosecutor said, hey, you know, I'd like to be able to press charges on this, but the law doesn't really allow for me to pursue this as a felony. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling, right?
It's just amazing. Yeah, it absolutely is. And, you know, we commonly referred to as our critical infrastructure law. And I literally can't picture a more critical piece of infrastructure for the state of Michigan than the Mackinac Bridge. I mean, if something happened to that bridge, we would literally be broken into two states for years. You don't just throw up another Mackinac Bridge. These are huge public works projects, and that bridge is critical for international trade, for our economic well-being as a state, for families being brought together. I mean, if you've ever driven the other way around the lake to get to the UP, it's a beautiful scenic tour, but it's not practical for everyday travel, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you say that when you talk about just the idea of having to rebuild something that we all take for granted now. People of later generations don't even have any idea what it took to get it built. And I feel badly having to say this and state this reality, but I'm not sure we could build it today.
I'm not sure we could either, you know, and it's funny you say that because when I was touring the new lock up that they're building up in Sault Ste. Marie there, you know, this thing isn't going to be done till after 2030. It's just on and on. It's multi-year project. It's huge. And they were talking about how fast the other locks got built. I can't remember the exact time, but it was like 18 months start to finish. I asked them, I said, well, what was different back then that they can whip this lock out like that? We have to take over 10 years on it. And it's a matter of regulations and all kinds of technology. And I mean, and we're just a different time. I mean, everything takes a long time now, whereas these guys just sort of got together and built the lock. And so that's absolutely true. And think of how much it would cost to rebuild that bridge. And it's one thing I love the job that the Mackinac Bridge Authority does on this, because they run that bridge with an iron fist. And I know it annoys some people who would like to get more tours of the bridge and more, a lot of different things. But the point of the matter is that bridge is in the condition it's in because they run it with an iron fist and they don't mess around. And I know originally they didn't even project that it would live this long. And this bridge has decades left of service because it's been maintained so beautifully. So it's a real success story for our state.
Well, it is. And I think, you and I talked about it before, that the reason, as you said, that somebody like Senator Chang from Detroit would push a bill like this through her committee and realize the importance of it is because you don't have to live where you do, or let alone the Upper Peninsula, to appreciate the iconic nature. I mean, we put it on our license plates. We really we take great pride in this bridge. So could you talk a little bit about what the legislation will actually do?
Okay, so this legislation basically makes it a trespassing on the bridge a felony, punishable by up to 4 years in prison or a $2,500 fine. And obviously prosecutors and judges can decide what's appropriate here. But those are extra tools, because right now it was like a civil infraction and a ticket if you could even do anything on it, which makes no sense at all. But it requires there to be, real clear markings on it. And this should be a pretty good deterrent to people who want to trespass on the bridge. I mean, and it's not all a matter of terrorism, albeit those type of things. You remember after 9/11, there were everybody was scared to death, and somebody was supposedly seen sort of casing out the Mackinac Bridge when we were on a heightened sense of alarm. And when we have things like bomb scares, even the bomb scare is devastating, because I remember a few summers ago, the bridge was closed for like 5 or 6 hours on the busiest travel day. I mean, think of how much impact that has on people's lives. But even beyond the actual security threat to this, there was a real high-profile trespasser who snuck on the bridge, up to the top of the bridge, along the cables in the sort of early morning hours for a big internet stunt. He posted these pictures all over the world. They got all kinds of news and things. That's so unbelievably dangerous. I mean, can you imagine if that guy was up there and fell off of those and landed on a car with a family traveling across the bridge? I mean, this is an it's a big safety concern. And every time they get one of these trespassers, they have to shut the bridge down. They call out the Coast Guard, the police. It sets off a state of emergency, which we just can't afford to have happening up there. So this gives prosecutors extra tools to punish those who do it, and hopefully make examples of some of these people so fewer people try in the future.
Well, and when you talk about those stunts, just to add to the audacity, the people that do these things then try to financially benefit off them from their photos and social media posts. So, yeah. You
bet. And right now, if they have to pay a fine of a couple $100, it's well worth it, because they can make a ton of money on the social media posts. So it's just, I honestly think this was just an oversight. I can't imagine anybody intentionally didn't include the Mackinac Bridge when they were really building these key infrastructure laws. And there are other facilities, no question, that need this protection. When we originally did this bridge, this bill, it was such a beautiful bill. It was 3 words. It literally added the Mackinac Bridge into that piece of legislation. And it had to get a little bit more complicated. There's a few things, but then I remember there's a big push to say, well, what about the Blue Water Bridge or the International Bridge or the bridge in Charlevoix, Michigan, the drawbridge there, or what about all bridges in the state? And I think all these things are really good. And some of them may require being added to this list at some point. But for this one, we didn't want to complicate it or give people reasons to say no. We just wanted it this time to be as clean as possible and make it the Mackinac Bridge. And it's funny because the minute this passed, I got a call from somebody saying, hey, we'd like to make an amendment and add police towers, these communications towers to that. Would you mind? And I said, yes, I would mind tremendously. I will go and work on a bill that does that. But if we need to get this one passed without any complications now. And any amendments, you're going to have people heap on, and before you know it, this thing's going to get cobbled up in the Lansing mess, and it won't get passed. So we just need to pass it now cleanly from the House.
I think you were wise to pursue it that way because you're right. I mean, I wish we could be all things to all people, but it was hard enough getting this done.
That's for sure. And you guys were so helpful. MDOT was just terrific. And the team that came out, and it was really a good process too all along, because initially there were some concerns that the tribes had related to, would this interfere with a ceremony they do near the bridge? And we instead of just, rolling our eyes at that, we all took it really seriously and got really involved. MDOT helped us with that. We got the tribes to support it. We got sign off from you all, from a whole wide range of people, and everybody was there to testify. I mean, I think the Bridge Authority, the director of the bridge, board member, the head of the Mackinac Bridge Authority board, this was a real team effort. And so, and I think we've got it to a place that this should be an easy run in the House and easily signed by the governor now.
Yeah, and I appreciate those comments for Kim Nowak, the bridge director. And I'll be speaking, the second part of this podcast will feature a conversation with Shorty Gleason, the chairman of the MBA, who, as you mentioned, was also very helpful in getting this across the finish line.
He's just been great to work with. He's such a kind gentleman, and he has been such a joy to work with on this whole process. It's just been a good team.
Well, he's very thoughtful in this, he's been on the MBA for a long time, and this is very personal to him. As you know, his father helped build the bridge, and he absolutely understands that Greek proverb, the society grows great when older generations plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. And
that's a great way to put it. That actually means something to me too, because my grandfather in the 50s, mid 50s till the mid 60s was the city manager in Traverse City, and he was at the dedication of the bridge. And so when we passed this, I thought it just kind of felt like continuing his work a little. And he passed away before I was even born. But that meant something to me, to be carrying on this legacy a little bit. It's just kind of neat. And certainly Shorty Gleason's part of that. And that comment, it really fits. It really fits.
Yeah. Well, and you got unanimous approval in the Senate. And how often does that happen for anything? So that's great.
That's true. Well, I mean, fortunately, it happens more than people think. But I mean, not necessarily unanimous. But this is what we're in a divided government right now. And this is what we should be doing is, I think divided government can be a very successful thing for our state. And it forces us all to roll up our sleeves, listen to one another, incorporate other people's ideas, and get things done that we can all agree upon. I think that's a chance when the state can really thrive.
Yeah, well said. I really appreciate your work on this. And I know you're going to go to work on your colleagues in the House to get similar success there. So good luck, and thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you. And thanks for all you're doing. I appreciate the work, and I appreciate the partnership. So let's pick the next thing and let's work on that and get going on it.
Sounds good. Stay with us. We'll have more on the other side of this important message.
Know before you go. Head on over to MyDrive to check out the latest on road construction and possible delays along your route. For a detailed map, head over to michigan.gov/drive.
So again, we're back now with Patrick Shorty Gleason, who is the chairman of the Mackinac Bridge Authority and has been working alongside Senator Damoose and others on this legislation going back to the House version, which ended up stalling in 2022. So Shorty, it's a good day when you can pass a bill like you've been working on so hard. And I know you've got a background working on all kinds of legislation, but this one must feel pretty good to you, huh?
Well, this one feels the best. And not only is it a good day, it's a great day. Fantastic day.
Yeah. So talk about, you and I have talked before, but remind people of your very personal connection to the bridge and why, this level of protection matters to you.
Well, just from our family's perspective, my dad spent 3 years up there working on the bridge. He come out of retirement in 1999 to work again as an iron worker, putting the traveler in underneath the bridge. My son, on that same project, served part of his apprenticeship as an iron worker on that bridge. But, and I was so fortunate to be appointed to the Mackinac Bridge Authority in 2004, I believe it was. and having served for 21 years and to be able to work with people like Senator Damoose in particular to go the length that he has gone to get this legislation at least through the state Senate now is remarkable, And I think, in all fairness to everybody involved, the director of MDOT, director of WeFetch, has been very, very helpful as well. I certainly want to thank Senator Chang for allowing it to come before her committee, Senate Majority Leader Brinks for letting it go to the floor as quick as it has. It was just last week it come out of committee. So, there was so many people involved in this process for almost 5 years now, Jeff, and to have it get through the Senate 38-0. I mean, you want a definition of true bipartisanship? Here's the Senate is controlled by the Democrats, a bill that's introduced by a Republican. That's pretty remarkable. That itself speaks to the importance of the bill and what the senators here in this great state of Michigan think of the mighty Mackinac Bridge. So it's just been a remarkable process all the way through it, very learning. It's very educational for me as well to get it as far as we've gotten it. But, it wouldn't have never happened without the persistence of Senator Damoose.
Well, Senator Damoose and I talked about that a little bit, too, and the idea that Senator Chang from Detroit understands the importance of this bridge to everybody in the state. You don't have to live in the northern lower or the UP and cross it every day to understand why it's so iconic and why we, have so many photos of it and so many reproductions of sunsets and winter scenes and everything that have the bridge in the background. And it shows up in all kinds of media reports, anything involving the straits, you'll see a picture of the bridge. And like you mentioned, Senator Brinks, who lives here in Grand Rapids, cares a lot about it, too. So that says that people across the state get it. Talk about why this was so important to you and why the threats posed by the trespassers and, the bomb threat and everything really, really disturbed you.
Well, you stop and think about what the mighty Mac provides for the state of Michigan, as well as Canada, and the entire nation when it talks about just the goods, the economy that goes over that bridge every day of the week, 365 days a year. And if something was to go wrong up there, it would be devastating to the economy. But even more importantly, this just addresses it from a safety point of view about the primary purpose of the Mackinac Bridge Authority is to make sure that we provide safe passage for all the motorists going across the Mackinac Bridge. And when you stop and think about if somebody just wants to do take off on a thrill adventure or something of that nature, and they start going up the main cable, the carrying cable for the Mackinac Bridge, and all of a sudden they freeze up. That person has to be rescued. Yeah. And then when you take into consideration, from April to November, you can be rest assured just about any day, Monday through Friday, you're going to have employees of the Mackinac Bridge Authority out there doing their maintenance work on the bridge. And quite often, like we will hear just in the next week or so, we're actually going to have outside contractors working on that bridge as well. And if something happens to where, if it's a car accident or if somebody has to be rescued off that, the first people on that scene are the Mackinac Bridge employees or the construction contractors. So, there's no place for thrill seekers to be. And, we've had too many incidents already, in my opinion. And to just have a slap on the wrist, it's time to say enough's enough. If you're going to get on the superstructure of the Mackinac Bridge, then there's going to be some severe punishment for doing so.
So talk a little bit more separately from this legislation and, what it could mean. Some of the other things, other challenges you're dealing with the MBA, looking forward and what needs to happen.
Well, we'll shortly, when I say shortly, it's projected somewhere around 2032 to 2034. it's going to be the start of a major redecking project on the Mackinac Bridge. And you talk about whether or not maintenance pays for itself over time. When that bridge was originally designed by Dr. Steinman, he thought that the decking replacement might have to take place starting in 1999. Well, here it is, 2025. And we are doing some paving projects to prolong the bridge. We are replacing some grading. But the maintenance program at the Mackinac Bridge started really November 1st, 1957. And those employees up there have done such a good job maintaining that bridge. The life expectancy is pushed out anywhere from 32 to maybe 36 years before we start into the major deck replacement. So, does maintenance pay for itself? I think the Mackinac Bridge is a good example how the life expectancy has been pushed out for approximately 32 years. Says it all.
Yeah, it's a textbook asset management. When you talk about 2032, that would be the 75th anniversary of the opening of the bridge. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Boy, it's hard to believe. It's coming up that quick, but it is. It seems like it was just a few years ago we celebrated 50 years of it.
Yeah, right.
So,
well, Shorty, thank you for taking time to talk about this a little bit, and congratulations. I know that now, all eyes turn to the house, but I think you've got some good momentum going in, so we'll hope for the best there.
Well, thank you, and we certainly want to, on behalf of the Mackinac Bridge Authority, thank all the senators for their great vote today in supporting the Mackinac Bridge. Thank you, Jeff, and have a great day.
You too. I'd like to thank you once more for tuning in to Talking Michigan Transportation. You can find show notes and more on Apple Podcasts or Buzzsprout. I also want to acknowledge the talented people who help make this a reality each week, starting with Randy Debler, who skillfully edits the audio, Jesse Ball, who proofs the content, Courtney Bates, who posts the podcast to various platforms, and Jackie Salinas, who transcribes the audio to make it accessible to all.